Let me just see if I can get us recording. Record, resume recording. Hi, welcome everybody. This is Towel Day. So happy Towel Day, everyone. Let me just turn off my other window, which I have now lost track of, which we can hear in the background, which just is distracting. So thank you. I'm Paul Sugarman, the founder of the Instant Shakespeare Company and a huge fan of Douglas Adams and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, he was just such an amazing writer and visionary, and we're here to celebrate his work, as has been being done worldwide, galaxy-wide probably, of celebration of his work. And to start us off, we have Eleanor Elizabeth Foreman with taking stuff from the very beginning, like why today is Towel Day.
As Wikipedia says, the importance of the towel was introduced in the seventh of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy original radio series in 1978. The follow-up book explained the importance of towels in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy universe in Chapter 3, using much of the same wording as the original radio series. A towel, it says, is about the most massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can have. Partly it has great practical value. You can wrap it around you for warmth as you bound across the cold moons of Jaglan Beta. You can lie on it on the brilliant marble-sanded beaches of Centraginus 5, inhaling the heady sea vapors. You can sleep under it beneath the stars which shine so redly on the desert world of Kakrafoon. Use it to sail a mini raft down the slow, heavy river Moth. Wet it for use in hand-to-hand combat. Wrap it around your head to ward off noxious fumes or avoid the gaze of the ravenous bug-blatter beast of Traal. Such a mind-bogglingly stupid animal, it assumes that if you can't see it, it can't see you. Daft as a brush, but very, very ravenous. You can wave your towel in emergencies as a distress signal, and of course, dry yourself off with it if it still seems to be clean enough. Most important, a towel has immense psychological value. For some reason, if a non-hitchhiker, discovers that a hitchhiker has his towel with him, he will automatically assume that he is also in possession of a toothbrush, face flannel, soap, tin of biscuits, flask, compass, map, ball of string, gnat spray, wet weather gear, spacesuit, etc., etc. Furthermore, the strag will then happily lend the hitchhiker any of these or a dozen other items that the hitchhiker might accidentally have lost. What the strag will think is that any man who can hitch the length and breadth of the galaxy, rough it, slum it, struggle against terrible odds, win through, and still knows where his towel is clearly a man to be reckoned with. Hence a phrase that has passed into hitchhiking slang, as in, "Hey, you sass that Hoopy Ford prefect? There's a fruit who really knows where his towel is." Sass, know, be aware of, meet, have sex with. Hoopy, really together guy. Frood, really amazingly together guy.
Thank you. That's great. And I mean, yeah, that's why we have Towel Day. It was actually sort of started. This is, I guess, this would be the 25th anniversary of Towel Day. That's the first time we've celebrated with Instant Shakespeare. But it was started in 2001, like just 2 weeks after Douglas Adams' untimely passing on May 11th of 2001. So in a lot of ways, it's like he was from a from really sort of, yes, in the 20th century and from a much different time, and yet his works are still so relevant, and even more so as we have experience with AI, which he was as he was writing and warning about in his books, and the sentient doors and Marvin. So that's great. And Eleanor, you had something else you wanted to also say about. Because also one of the great things about this is that it was originally that how it started, even though it's a great book series, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is I have my
I'm holding up my
very
cover.
yeah, my very beaten up paperback copy that I've had for many years. But that it really started as the radio scripts, and that it came as in like Shakespeare, that it's good to honor that this came from performance. My understanding that it was the radio scripts, then the TV series, and then the books, as like the 5-part trilogy. But I'll go over all of those things when we get to my big fanboy stuff after after everyone else has gotten their say. But so yeah, the radio scripts are really really wonderful, and the origin of this, all of this.
Well, my latest copy of the original radio scripts has not only fit the 1st through 12th, but also how a lost episode was rediscovered, which I'll share with you. In 2002, while I was researching my book Hitchhiker, a biography of Douglas Adams, this is M.J. Simpson writing, Ace Hitchhiker's Guide collector Terry Platt loaned me a box of cassettes with various radio interviews and game show appearances by Douglas. In among them was something called Steelfeld Plus, a one-off 40-minute show on Radio 4, first broadcast on 4 August 1982 and repeated on 2 October that year. It starred actress-comedian Sheila Steelfeld, presenting a mixture of songs and comedy taken from 2 shows she had performed in Edinburgh and London. The writing credits on Steelfeld Plus were remarkable. In the middle of the program was a show sketch, Sheila's Ear, in which she interviewed none other than Arthur Dent, played as ever by Simon Jones. I had spent 20 years researching Douglas Adams' life and career and was working on my 3rd book about him. I thought I knew everything there was to know about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yet here was a completely unknown piece of the story. It was not referred to in any book. Douglas had never mentioned it in any interview. Contemporary issues of the Fan Club magazine completely failed to spot it, which was a pity because it was exactly what they had been looking for all these years. Written by Douglas Adams, starring Simon Jones, broadcast on BBC Radio 4, and fitting perfectly into the continuity of the radio series between Fit the Sixth and Fit the Seventh, or between the novels The Restaurant at the End of the Universe and Life, the Universe, and Everything. This is completely canonical Hitchhiker's Guide. It was like finding an unknown Shakespeare sonnet or a forgotten Caravaggio in someone's loft. And now, for the first time in 21 years, here is Fit the 6.5, restored to its rightful place within the Hitchhiker's Guide canon. Written, as I mentioned before, by M.J. Simpson. And here's Fit the 6.5, or Sheila's Ear, transcribed from an original recording. Hello, and welcome to Sheila's Ear. And I have with me in the studio this evening a man whose travels as a hitchhiker around the galaxy have made him something of a celebrity, and his name is Arthur Dent. Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Dent. Applause. Arthur, hello. Hello. In your lovely woolly dressing gown, you must be the most well-traveled man I ever met. Can I ask you, first of all, where am I? Well, who are you? Where am I? We're at the BBC. I thought I was in a cave. Well, I know what you mean, but this is the Paris studio, Lower Regent Street, London. England? Yes, England. Earth? Earth, yes. I'm astonished. Well, last time I was here, it was blown up. Since when, of course, you have been traveling around the galaxy, but you're missing the point. When I say blown up, I mean all gone. Really? Yes, the Earth was completely blown up, you see, nothing left. I mean, this is the point I'm trying to stress. How interesting. Tell me, what are the things you missed most about Earth? Miss? Yes. Well, irreplaceable things, I suppose. Mars bars, primarily. Certain types of tea. And, well, I was going to say Radio 4, but I'm a bit puzzled. Are you sure this is really happening? You missed Radio 4? Oh, certainly. The news quiz. Just a minute. It's unique. There's nothing quite, or even faintly, like Kenneth Williams anywhere else in the galaxy. Is that so? Is that so? Yes, I've looked. Not very hard, I grant you. Why don't you tell us something about your experience of space? Well, one of the interesting things about space is really how dull it is. Dull? Yes, staggeringly dull, bewilderingly so. You see, there's so much of it and so little in it. It sometimes reminds me of The Observer. Would you like me to quote you some statistics? No, thanks very much. No, very wise. They too are sensationally dull. But where exactly have you been? Well, actually, I've been living in a cave on prehistoric Earth for the last 5 years. So if you really want a lot of stuff about asteroids and ray guns, I'm afraid you've come to the wrong chap. Ah, I can tell you a lot about mud and swamps and the quest for fire. Honestly, this is the place I always dreamed of being. England now. The archers, crumpets with marmite, chat shows. Funny, now I'm here, I keep thinking I ought to pinch myself. No, don't do that. Well, it's been nice in talking to you in your sleep. You must be keen to get back to your cave and wake up. Not particularly. Tough. So, from the dream world of Arthur Dent, it's back to our studio. Ends.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, mine. I have the thing from when the original radio scripts were first published, so I don't have that extra stuff in it. That is really that is great. And there is so much, and I've now lost track of my thing, which has all of the stuff that's on my Hitchhiker's DVDs from that, and I don't know if any of that
I'll
is
read
on it.
another bit from the narrator.
Oh, excellent.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a truly remarkable book. The introduction starts like this. Space, it says, is big, really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the street to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Listen, and so on. After a while, the style settles down a bit and it starts telling you things you actually need to know, like the fact that the fabulously beautiful planet Bethsalamine is now so worried about the cumulative erosion caused by 10 million visiting tourists a year that any net imbalance between the amount you eat and the amount you excrete whilst on the planet is surgically removed from your body weight when you leave, So every time you go to the lavatory there, it is vitally important to get a receipt. In the entry in which it talks about dying of asphyxiation 30 seconds after being thrown out of a spaceship, it goes on to say that, what with space being the size it is, the chances of being picked up by another craft within those seconds are 2 to the power of 267,709 to 1 against, which, by a staggering coincidence, was also the telephone number of an Islington flat where Arthur once went to a very good party and met a very nice girl whom he entirely failed to get off with. Though the planet Earth, the Islington flat, and the telephone have all now been demolished, it is comforting to reflect that they are in some small way commemorated by the fact that 29 seconds later, Ford and Arthur were in fact rescued.
Thank you. Yes, that's such wonderful writing, so much fun that he has, and just really so much of it coming from the fact that he was a comedy writer writing for actors, and also that Simon Jones, I mean, that really Douglas Adams, I believe, has said that he based Arthur Dent on Simon Jones, who played him so wonderfully in the radio scripts. Such a wonderful actor. So many great things. I've seen him in Privates on Parade. He was in the movie and then playing the part on in at Roundabout. He's such a terrific actor. And even in the film where they had Martin Freeman playing Arthur Dent, they did have Simon Jones as a cameo, as a warning from the planet Magrathea.
Here is some more from that episode I was reading from. Welcome to the Starship Heart of Gold. Please do not be alarmed by anything you see or hear around you. You are bound to feel some initial ill effects as you have been rescued from certain death at an improbability level of 2 to the power of 267,709 to 1 against, possibly much higher. We are now cruising at a level of 2 to the power of 25,000 to 1 against and falling, and we will be restoring normality as soon as we are sure what is normal anyway. Thank you. 2 to the power of 20,000 to 1 against and falling. Ford, there's an infinite number of monkeys outside who want to talk to us about the script for Hamlet they've worked out. The infinite improbability drive is a wonderful new method of crossing interstellar distances in a few seconds without all that tedious mucking about in hyperspace. The principle of generating small amounts of finite improbability by simply hooking the logic circuits of a Bamboini 57 sub-meson brain to an atomic vector plotter suspended in a strong Brownian motion producer, say a nice hot cup of tea, were of course well understood, and such generators were often used to break the ice at parties by making all the molecules in the hostess's undergarments simultaneously leap 1 foot to the left, in accordance with the theory of indeterminacy. Many respectable physicists said they weren't going to stand for that sort of thing, partly because it was a debasement of science, but mostly because they didn't get invited to those sort of parties. Another thing they couldn't stand was the perpetual failure they encountered in trying to construct a machine which could generate the infinite improbability field needed to flip a spaceship between the furthest stars, and in the end they grumpily announced that such a machine was virtually impossible. Then one day a student who had been left to sweep up the lab after a particularly unsuccessful party found himself reasoning this way: if such a machine is a virtual impossibility, then it must logically be a finite improbability. So all I have to do in order to make one is to work out exactly how improbable it is, Then feed that figure into the finite improbability generator, give it a fresh cup of really hot tea, and turn it on. He did this and was rather startled to discover that he had managed to create the long sought after infinite improbability generator out of thin air. It startled him even more when, just after he was awarded the Galactic Institute's prize for extreme cleverness, he got lynched by a rampaging mob of respectable physicists who had finally realized that the one thing they really couldn't stand was a smartass. 5 to 1 against and falling, 4 to 1 against and falling, 3 to 1, 2, 1. Probability factor of 1 to 1. We have normality. I repeat, we have normality. Anything you still can't cope with is therefore your own problem.
It's great. I love it. Anything you still can't cope with is therefore your own problem. Such a, yeah. So it's such a wonderful thing. I love the film Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I just wish that with the many Academy Awards, that one of them had acknowledged that the whole sort of central thing of it is that they're able to go into these different realities by doing improbable things, and that they really should have, I mean, given credit to Douglas Adams for this idea, you know, because I do think it is sort of the driving sort of a plot device of that very very good movie. And so yeah, you got more.
The Encyclopedia Galactica defines a robot as a mechanical apparatus designed to do the work of a man. The marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation defines a robot as your plastic pal who's fun to be with. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy defines the marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation as a bunch of mindless jerks who'll be the first against the wall when the revolution comes, with a footnote to the effect that the editors would welcome applications for anyone interested in taking over the post of robotics correspondent. Curiously enough, an edition of the Encyclopedia Galactica that fell through a time warp from 1,000 years in the future defined the marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation as a bunch of mindless jerks who were the first against the wall when the revolution came.
Yes, indeed, the marketing, and even yes, back from the 70s when this first came on in 1978. So it really is yes, and Encyclopedia Galactica is a reference to in Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. Isn't that the sort of, I believe, the central encyclopedia from that? As I recall, I think that may be the case. I mean, because that's one of the wonderful things of that Douglas Adams would take things and from other stuff and reship it, like is to boldly split infinitives that no man has split before, you know, from taking from Star Trek. And that's I think part of the stuff that makes him so so accessible and so much a part of popular culture.
Okay. Shall we introduce a genuine people personality?
Oh, okay.
Ghastly. It all is. Absolutely ghastly. Just don't even talk about it. Look at this door. All the doors in this spacecraft have a cheerful and sunny disposition. It is their pleasure to open for you and their satisfaction to close again with the knowledge of a job well done.
Door closes with a satisfied sigh.
Hateful, isn't it? Come on. I've been ordered to take you up to the bridge. Here I am, brain the size of a planet, and they tell me to take you up to the bridge. Call that job satisfaction? Because I don't.
Excuse me, which government owns this ship?
You watch this door. It's about to open again. I can tell by the intolerable air of smugness it suddenly generates. And to be of service.
Door opens and says, glad to be of service.
Thank you. The marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation.
Door closes saying, you're welcome.
Hmm?
Which government owns this ship?
Let's build robots with genuine people personalities, they said. So they tried it out with me. I'm a personality prototype. You can tell, can't you?
Uh,
I hate that door. I'm not getting you down, am I?
which government owns this ship?
No government owns it. It's been stolen.
Stolen?
Stolen?
Well, who by?
Zaffa Beeblebrox.
Zephyr Beeblebrox?
Sorry, did I say something wrong? Pardon me for breathing, which I never do anyway, so I don't know why I bothered to say it. Oh, God, I was so depressed. Here's another of those self-satisfied doors. Life. Don't talk to me about life.
No one even mentioned it. Really, Zaphod Beeblebrox.
And music, what do you hear on the sub-ether wave band, broadcasting around the galaxy around the clock? And we'll be saying a big hello to all intelligent life forms everywhere. And to everyone else out there, the secret is to bang the rocks together, guys. And of course, the big news story tonight is the sensational theft of the new improbability drive prototype ship by none other than Zaphod Beeblebrox. And the question everyone's asking is, has the big Z finally flipped? Beeblebrox, the man who invented the pan-galactic Gargle Blaster, ex-confidence, their part-time galactic president, once described by eccentrica Galumbit as the best bang since the big one, and recently voted the worst dressed sentient being in the universe for the seventh time running. Has he got an answer this time? We asked his private brain care specialist, Gag Halfront.
Well, Zaphod's just this guy, you know?
Let's flip around.
I just wandered off because I was trying to find a picture of him from the movie. Because there's also, I mean, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, besides starting as the radio scripts, then being the TV series with the BBC before it then became the books. And then there was also another movie version of it made, which was very good with Martin Freeman and Mos Def and Zoe Deschanel and John Malkovich, and it's a fun movie. Unfortunately, they just did the one, and there's a lot more story to tell. But I do, and of course, I mean, yeah, and Sam Rockwell is Zaphod Beeblebrox, which a lot of people nowadays, it's like, wow. Back in the 70s, it was like talking, I mean, he created this character, Zaphod Beeblebrox, who became president and then was just totally in it for himself, a total narcissist, just taking everything. And he's got, I think, one of his lines, if there's anything more important than my ego on this ship, I want it caught and shot now. And some people can see it as a prefiguring of who we've got now, although Zaphod is much cooler. So, Eleanor, you got something else you wanted to share from this? Oh, we have another attendee. Wonderful. Jackie is here. Okay, great. Jackie, I'm promoting you to panelist now. Sorry, I just had seen that you were here. I mean, yeah, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is quite quite a wonderful thing.
Oh, what's wonderful about it? I missed it. I missed it all. Let me see. I have a copy of it. Let me find my copy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're just talking some of our favorite bits, and then I'd like after we do that, I'm going to sort of go over on my sort of review of all of Douglas Adams' things as a tribute to him. But yeah, if there's bits of it that, like in looking it over, you'd like to read, there, that's
Uh, I
there's
might listen for a few minutes. I can't. Oh, here I found something. Well, let me listen to see where you're at. You people are at.
Well, we're actually working from. Eleanor has got the radio scripts because one of the things that's interesting is that this was originally done as a radio plays, and then like a TV show before it became the books that he wrote, the 5-part trilogy. So
Okay, I don't know what pieces, little pieces you read, so let me listen a little bit.
yeah, okay, and yeah, I think Eleanor had something else that she wanted to do.
The
It was. Let me just.
oh, there's a note in the back. Um, the joke about I really wish I'd listened to what my mother told me when I was young. Finally makes an appearance after years of being thrown out of footlight shows. Okay, let's see. Here is let's see. Vogon constructor fleets. Here is what to do if you want to get a lift from a Vogon. Forget it. They're one of the most unpleasant races in the galaxy, not actually evil, but bad-tempered, bureaucratic, officious, and callous. They wouldn't even lift a finger to save their own grandmothers from the ravenous bug bladder beast of Traal without orders signed in triplicate, sent in, sent back, queried, lost, found, subjected to public inquiry, lost again, and finally buried in soft peat for 3 months and recycled as firelighters. The best way to get a drink out of a Vogon is to stick your finger down his throat, and the best way to irritate him is to feed his grandmother to the ravenous bug bladder beast of Traal. Uh,
Mhm. Yes, indeed, and that's is yes, and then you have, and then it goes on to say, no, on no account let them read poetry to you, and then of course, what are they subject to? A Vogon poetry reading.
yeah,
It's
let's see that. I think that's at the very end.
yeah.
Oh, here we go. Yes, here we go. Oh, we could do the babblefish first and then come to that. Oh.
Let me just see. Here's
Here is should have a good time. Message repeat. This is your captain speaking, so stop whatever you're doing and pay attention. First of all, I see from our instruments that we have a couple of hitchhikers aboard our ship. Hello, wherever you are. I just want to make it totally clear that you are not at all welcome. I worked hard to get where I am today, and I didn't become captain of a Vogon constructor ship simply so that I could turn it into a taxi service for degenerate freeloaders. I've sent out a search party, and as soon as they find you, I will put you off the ship. If you're very lucky, I might read you some of my poetry first. Secondly, we are about to jump into hyperspace for the journey to Bernard's star. On arrival, we will stay in dock for a 72-hour refit, and no one's to leave the ship during that time. I repeat, all planet leave is canceled. I've just had an unhappy love affair, so I don't see why anyone should have a good time. Message ends. The babblefish is small, yellow, leech-like, and probably the oddest thing in the universe. It feeds on brainwave energy, absorbing all unconscious frequencies, and then excreting telepathically a matrix formed from the conscious frequencies and nerve signals picked up from the speech centers of the brain. The practical upshot of which is that if you stick one in your ear, you can instantly understand anything said to you in any form of language. The speech you hear decodes the brainwave matrix. Now, it is such a bizarrely improbable coincidence that anything so mind-bogglingly useful could evolve purely by chance that some thinkers have chosen to see it as a final clinching proof of the non-existence of God. The argument goes something like this. I refuse to prove that I exist, says God, for proof denies faith, and without faith I am nothing. But, says man, the babel fish is a dead giveaway, isn't it? It proves you exist, and so therefore you don't. QED. Oh dear, says God, I hadn't thought of that, and promptly vanishes in a puff of logic. Oh, that was easy, says man, and for an encore, he proves that black is white and gets killed on the next zebra crossing. Most leading that this argument is a load of dingo's kidneys, but that didn't stop Ulan Kulfid making a small fortune when he used it as the central theme of his best-selling book. Well, that about wraps it up for God. Meanwhile, the poor babblefish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication between different cultures and races, has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation. Let's see. Banging on the steel door. What's that? Well, if we're lucky, it's just the Vogons come to throw us into space. And if we're unlucky, the captain might want to read us some of his poetry first. Vogon poetry is, of course, the third worst in the universe. The second worst is that of the Asgoths of Kriya. During a recitation by their poet master Grunthos, the flatulent, of his poem, Ode to a Small Lump of Green Putty I Found in My Armpit One Midsummer Morning, 4 of his audience died of internal hemorrhaging, and the president of the Mid-Galactic Arts Nobbling Council survived by gnawing one of his own legs off. Runthos is reported to have been disappointed by the poem's reception and was about to embark on a reading of his 12-book epic entitled My Favorite Bath Time Gurgles when his own major intestine, in a desperate attempt to save humanity, leapt straight up through his neck and throttled his brain. The very worst poetry of all perished along with its creator, Paula Nancy Millstone Jennings of Greenbridge, in the destruction of the planet Earth. Vogon poetry is mild by comparison, and when the Vogon captain began to read it, provoked this reaction from Ford Prefect. And this from Arthur Dent. Oh, Freddled grunt bugly, thy micturations are to me as blurtled double blotchets in a group. I implore thee, my footling, hurling drums, and hooptiously dangle me with crinkly bindle wordles, for otherwise I will rend thee in the gobberwarts with my blurge and crunching. See if I don't. So, Earthlings, I present you with a simple choice. I was going to throw you straight out into the empty blackness of space to die horribly and slowly, but there is one way, one simple way in which you may save yourselves. Think very carefully, for you hold your very lives in your hands. Now choose. Either die in the vacuum of space or dramatic chord. Tell me how good you thought my poem was.
I got something when you
Okay, great. What do you got, Jackie?
Okay. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentioned alcohol. It says the best drink in existence is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. It says that the effect of a Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster is like having your brain smashed out by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick. The guide also tells you on which planets the best pan-galactic gargle blasters are mixed, how much you can expect to pay for one, and what voluntary organizations exist to help you rehabilitate afterwards. The guide even tells you how you can mix one yourself. Take the juice from one bottle of that old Jack spirit, it says, pour it into one measure of water from the seas of San Tragunis V. Oh, that Santraginian seawater, it says. Oh, those Santraginian fish. Allow 3 cubes of Arcturian mega gin to melt into the mixture. It must be properly iced or the benzene is lost. Allow 4 liters of Fallian marsh gas to bubble through it in memory of all those happy hikers who have died of pleasure in the marshes of Thalia. Over the back of a silver spoon flowed a measure of qualactine hypermit extract, redolent of all the heady colors of the dark qualactine zones, subtle, sweet, and mystic. Drop in the tooth of an Argolian sun tiger, watch it dissolve, spreading the fires of the Argolian suns deep into the heart of the drink. Sprinkle Zamphora, add an olive, drink, but be very careful. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sells rather better than the Encyclopedia Galaxia. Okay, that's a piece of it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Actually, I was just thinking of that part as a good thing to read because I love the alcohol stuff and the description of the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster.
Right.
Yeah, which include if it includes benzene, of course, that I think is poisonous, but it does sort of explain, like, yeah, that Zaphod Beeblebrox is credited with inventing it, the two-headed president of the galaxy, whose way is just stealing the newest spaceship and going off and seeing the galaxy. And in that, rescuing his friends, Arthur Dent, well, Ford Prefect, his cousin, and Arthur Dent, who actually he doesn't like very much, and feeling it's kind of mutual. But it's yeah. So that's yeah. Is there other things that we want to talk about, or?
Did you read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Has a few things to say on the subject of towels. Did you get to
Yes,
that
we
one?
started off with that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you started with, okay, I missed that one. All right.
yeah, because that's a good one. There's also, I mean, where's the part about? Uh,
Uh,
um, oh, that goes. Why don't we just start at the beginning, and why don't you? I know what one you've got, Jackie. You read the first page, and I'll read the. I mean, and
okay.
yeah, let's just do that.
Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that they still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea. This planet has, or rather had, a problem, which which was this. Most of the people on it weren't happy for pretty much of the time. Many solutions were suggested for this problem, but most of these were largely concerned with the movement of small green pieces of paper, which is odd because on the whole it wasn't the small green pieces of paper that were unhappy. And so the problem remained. Lots of the people were mean, and most of them were miserable, even the ones with digital watches. Most were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in coming down from the trees in the first place. And some said that even the trees had been a bad move and that no one should ever have left the oceans. And then one Thursday, nearly 2,000 years after one man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change, one girl sitting on her own in a small cafe in Rickmansworth suddenly realized that it was that had been going wrong all the time, and she finally knew how the world could be made a good and happy place. This time it was right, it would work, and no one would have to get nailed to anything. Sadly, however, before she could get to the phone to tell anyone about it, a terribly stupid catastrophe occurred, and the idea was lost forever. This is not her story, but it is the story of that terrible, stupid catastrophe and some of its consequences. It is also the story of a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not an Earth book, never published on Earth, and until the terrible catastrophe occurred, never seen or heard of by any Earthmen. Nevertheless, a wholly remarkable book. In fact, it was probably the most remarkable book to ever come out of the great publishing house of Ursula Minor, of which no Earthman had ever heard either. Not only is it a wholly remarkable book, it is also a highly successful one, more popular than the Celestial Home Care Omnibus, better selling than 50 More Things to Do in Zero Gravity, more controversial than Ulan Fid's trilogy of philosophical blockbusters where God went wrong, some more of God's greatest mistakes, and who is this God person anyway? Okay, you want to continue?
In many of the more relaxed civilizations on the outer eastern rim of the galaxy, the Hitchhiker's Guide has already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom, for though it has many omissions and contains much that is apocryphal or at least wildly inaccurate, it scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important respects. First, it is slightly cheaper, and secondly, it has the words "Don't Panic" inscribed in large, friendly letters on its cover. But the story of this terrible, stupid Thursday, the story of its extraordinary consequences, and the story of how these consequences are inextricably intertwined with this remarkable book begins very simply. It begins with a house. So, anyways, I think that's just a little sampling from the very beginning of the book version of it, and I'm just such a huge fan of his work. So, Eleanor, did you have anything else you wanted to do, or can I get into my going over all of Douglas Adams' various things that he did?
Well, you want me to read some of the notes from the back?
Well, I mean, we've been going actually for over 45 minutes now. So.
Let Paul tell us all about the man. That would be nice. Yes? I'd like to know more about him.
Okay, Eleanor, why don't you read one note and then I'll get into this stuff and we can talk about the Hitchhiker's Guide and its evolution over time, and of course the man whom we're really talking about here, Douglas Adams.
Okay. How about, are you interested in the theme song?
Sure.
Simon remembers that right from the start, Douglas knew exactly what he wanted. For instance, he spent some time looking for a signature tune, which had to be electronic, but which also had a banjo in it. Quite why he was so keen on a banjo is a bit of a mystery. He says he thought it would help give an on-the-road hitchhiking feel to the whole thing. But there is no doubt that the choice of Journey of the Sorcerer from the Eagles album One of These Nights was inspired. Interestingly, many of the people who wrote in asking what it was were surprised to find that they already had it. It just seemed to be one of those album tracks that nobody had noticed until it was taken out of context. Peter Jones was not the first person approached to play the book, but curiously from the start there had been a desire to cast someone with a Peter Jonesy sort of voice. After 3 or 4 people, including Michael Palin, had turned it down, the search for the Peter Jonesy sort of voice narrowed in on Peter Jones. His calmly reassuring tone as the earth and the universe disintegrated around him was a great comfort for those people who were somewhat bewildered by the whole thing, and his performance perhaps took much of his strength from the fact that Peter himself was somewhat bewildered by the whole thing. Douglas claims to have based many of the characteristics of Arthur Dent on the actor who played him, Simon Jones, who, contrary to several people's belief, is not in fact Peter Jones's son. Though Simon himself is wary of being seen as a role model for a character he describes as whinging around the universe trying to find a cup of tea. An early thought was to call the character Alaric B, but the name Arthur Dent was chosen as being distinctive without being peculiar. Peculiarly enough, quite a few people had already come across an Arthur Dent, who in 1601 had published a Puritan tract called The Plain Man's Pathway to Heaven. Douglas claims never to have heard of this, despite being hard-pressed about it over several large meals. Ford Prefect, whose original name is sadly only pronounceable in an obscure Beetlejuicean dialect, was played by the inestimable Geoffrey McGivern, star of several Footlights reviews. He was virtually typecast as the disreputable alien Ford Prefect. Fit the First also featured David Gooderson as the barman, Joe Kendall, who had featured in I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again, and The Burkiss Way as Lady Cynthia Fitzmelton, and Bill Wallace, who literally came in on the day to replace another actor who had gone sick, memorably doubled up as Prosser and Prostetnik Volgan Junks. Many people have been interested in the recipe for a pan-galactic gargle blaster. It must be said that it is in fact impossible to mix a pan-galactic gargle blaster under Earth's atmospheric conditions, but readers will be delighted to know that all profits from this book will go towards purchasing a ticket on a future space shuttle to see if it is possible to mix one in low orbit. This is, in fact, a piece of complete nonsense, thought up over several large lunches, which have already, in fact, absorbed all possible profits from the book. As Petty Kingsland points out, the effect of the Earth's destruction is an amalgam of very ordinary sounds: thunderclaps, explosions, old train crashes, and so on. In fact, all it would have needed was a heartbeat to have the complete set of radio sound effects cliches. Despite that, it's all mixed up together in a way that makes it the technical highlight of the first show. Thus, Vogon spaceship background with its distinctive little bings was inspired by Star Trek, and rather more obscurely, the book motif was inspired by Tom and Jerry and made up from lots of little bits of tape that had been left lying around on the floor in the radiophonic workshop. The Babelfish is a brilliant device for getting around a basic problem which most sci-fi series seem to ignore, namely, why is it that all aliens seem to be able to speak English? Although it is never actually mentioned again, it is safe to assume that Arthur has it firmly in his ear over the next 11 episodes. The extraordinary noise of gargling, howling, sniffing, and so on was the first of many effects that were made perfectly satisfactorily by completely ignoring the convoluted descriptions in the script. In fact, it was made quite simply by reversing the speech. Mildly interested Hitchhiker's devotees will notice that Paula Nancy Millstone Jennings is a pretty strange name. Real fanatics will know that it has been changed from the name that actually appeared on the program. This is for legal reasons. And in fact, a typing error made after a particularly arduous lunch. Absolutely. Tonto Hitchhiker's fans will also be interested to know that in a recent edition of the fanzine Playbeing, the line "I never could get the hang of Thursdays" was voted the most popular line of the series shortly after life. Don't talk to me about life.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, there's so much great stuff that he had to say. I mean, and like there it is on the very first beginning of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, great sort of summing up of Christianity. 2,000 years after a man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change, you know, which I still like to use as an apt description for Christianity. And Douglas Adams actually described himself as a radical atheist. And but I do think it's a great thing. And he was a writer, and also he had several sort of memorable things. People may have seen him. He was on the David Letterman show a few times, but really he was a writer. He was a writer of both books, but he really was he was a comedy writer, was how he started out, and how this started with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which as it began, I mean, these are some pictures of him fairly well. I really should have done some more stuff on this, but yeah, Douglas Adams was a really brilliant guy who died. He was born in March 11th, 1952. And he died on May 11th, 2001. So he didn't even make it to 50. And but he left an incredible legacy, because I think his work and his mindset and that of Monty Python really gave us a sort of a modern sort of perspective on things from the beginning with the original Hitchhiker radio scripts. For it was done first, as I said, as the radio script, and then before it came out as the book, it was there was the TV series, which I have my DVD of that. I've got all of these piles of things here, because as I was getting ready for this, I realized I think I have just about everything of Douglas Adams, although Eleanor showed me that I didn't, because I have an earlier version of the radio scripts that doesn't have this additional thing that they had found. But so there was this, which is an excellent series, which I think I've got more bits on it that I haven't seen yet, because it basically had 4 episodes of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and two episodes of Restaurant at the End of the Universe. In the TV thing, and I've found there were additional ones as well. And this was also with Simon Jones as Arthur Dent, and a really wonderful cast. And then of course he brought it out as books, which were very popular. And then it was ultimately there's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that the five books in the trilogy, because that's how he I think they referred to it, is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Restaurant at the End of the Universe, Life, the Universe, and Everything, and then the 4th book is So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and the 5th book is Mostly Harmless. And so those are the 5 books in the original trilogy. I really loved the first 4, and then they tried to do another thing with Ian Coffer doing another Hitchhiker's book, sort of using the characters and doing it, and I wasn't a big fan of it. But there was also he also did there's another book that was put together. It was like The Salmon of Doubt, which was some of his unpublished writings, which were sort of part of it is further Hitchhiker stuff and other different kinds of things that he did. There we have, yes, The Salmon of Doubt, which is which includes on the subtitle, Hitching the Hitchhiking the Galaxy one last time, and it's got some more hitchhiker stuff in it. And then again, of course, one of the things is that it was remade into a movie with Stephen Fry as the voice of the book. And Sam Rockwell as Zaphod Beeblebrox, as I said, Martin Freeman as Arthur Dent, Zoe Deschanel as Trillian, Moss Def as Ford Prefect, which is really, really a good movie. Too bad they didn't get to do more. In addition to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, one of the things that Douglas Adams was also a really strong proponent of, and I mean, what the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy purports to be is of ebooks. And so he did lots of things in terms of getting early ebooks of it, because really this is in the 1970s before really we had ebooks. And so he was very much in that, very much an early Apple guy, a big proponent of like the Apple products and that computing, and the idea of sort of the kind of idea of like how the idea that computing can be actually liberating for people by giving us all of these powers, instead of it's becoming what we're seeing now, is where it's really just making a lot of money for a very few people.
The line where he says that on this planet they haven't even heard about the digital watch. I thought that was kind of funny. I'm not that familiar with him at all, so I would have to read little excerpts to begin to flavor myself with it. I think it was about Star Wars and all those things too. Stephen Fry went to Stella Adler's. I think didn't he pass on too, or is he still
No,
around?
Stephen Fry is still around. He's a tremendous talent in so many ways. Wonderful actor, also a wonderful writer, and also very really very, very literate and intelligent, and great.
I think you forgot to mention the TV versions. The first one was excellent. Second one, no.
Oh, the TV versions. I did talk a little bit about that. I would get into it more because I was talking about the 6 episodes of the original one. I didn't realize, I guess, I'm not totally up on them because, now that you mention it, I think I did hear there was another TV version of it that I have not checked out, but the original one to watch, I mean, that's how I first, I think, I'm trying to think if I read the book first or if I saw this first, the TV series, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was from the BBC.
See some of it probably.
Yeah, it was from the BBC. I mean, they may have like DVDs of it. This is my DVDs that you could take out from the library. I'm not sure where it is on streaming, if you have to pay for it or something. But that is really good, and you really get to see Simon Jones. And it's so interesting when you find out things about like how the sort of low budget, I mean, shaped the whole thing of him going around in his bathrobe. That Arthur Dent is sort of, he's got a bathrobe and towel that most of the time is because he originally, Douglas Adams was like, oh, so he goes on this thing and they get on this huge cool spacesuit and he wears this, and it's like, yeah, we don't have the budget for that. So why doesn't he just wear his bathrobe the whole time? Which I think is wonderful. And I think it's wonderful when you see things where having to use your brain instead of your checkbook makes you come up with a much better thing. Like for example, I mean, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, if they'd use actual horses, I mean, the film just, I don't know if it would have worked at all. I mean, but the thing was they couldn't afford to have horses, so they came up with the idea of the coconuts, and I just think that is one of the most brilliant things, and makes that such a thing. And that and it's also, I mean, I think that Douglas Adams is very much a reflection of the same sensibility as Monty Python, of sort of being aware of all that's going on in the history of everything, but also having a sense of humor about it. And he did this Starship Titanic, which was a computer game which I actually never was able to successfully get to run on my computer to actually play it, but I hope someday I may be able to. And then that was actually, I don't have the novelization of it, but Terry Jones actually did a novelization of that as well. And in addition to the whole Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he also did some other books. This was a sort of a comic book that is the meaning of Lif, which is sort of a kind of a jokey sort of encyclopedia, with lots of different sort of words, just sort of made up words to describe things like long nidri, droplets that persist in running out of your nose, lossy mouth, one of those middle-aged ladies with just a hint of a handlebar mustache, Loth, the sort of man who wears loud check jackets, has a personalized tankard behind the bar, and always gets served before you do. So this was one of his things. And he was also very much believed in conservationism, and he did this book. Ken is here, great. Last Chance to See, in which he did a documentary where he was going around the world looking at all sorts of things. I mean, this was done way back, in the when was this done? This was published in 1990, so this was in the late 80s that he was doing that, and I believe they did like a documentary on it, but that he was concerned about, and sort of going around like a hitchhiker. I mean, because apparently who came up with the idea of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when he was like traveling across Europe and just sort of thinking about, and like one of those guidebooks for like a Hitchhiker's Guide to Spain or something. He was like, we really need a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's funny.
That's how he came up with that idea, which really led to so much of his things. He also did another series, which was just 2 books, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which is really, really terrific. It's also been adapted into a TV series, actually into 2 TV series. I haven't seen the first TV series, but there were 2 seasons of another TV series, which actually doesn't really take the storyline of there's the Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and the other book that he has, which I have somewhere, which I couldn't find this morning, is The Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul, both of which I think are really, really very fun reads and well worth reading. And there were 2 series of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, where it really sort of takes the character of Dirk, basically, and then sort of creates new storylines with it. But I like it very much. I think it's still very true to the thing of Douglas Adams. Also, Douglas Adams was a story editor and writer for Doctor Who as well. He did the episode the Pirate Planet, and he was story editor for like about a year and a half. Did a really terrific episode, City of Death, which was with Doctor Who. Yeah, he was in the Tom Baker years, and then one of the other stories that he did was this episode of Doctor Who with Tom Baker that never actually got fully filmed because of a writer's strike. I believe it was a writer's. I'm pretty sure it was a writer's strike back then, and so they didn't. So they couldn't. They filmed some scenes of it, and actually some of the scenes from that were used in the Doctor Who special, The Five Doctors, because Tom Baker was like, "I've just been doing Doctor Who for so long, I'm not coming back and doing another little bit," and so they took some of his clips from there, just a very few things, and to just sort of have him in it in a way. And then recently they did take all of the materials that they had and put together a version of the whole story, which is now available, and also I think is on DVD.
What made you so interested in him? I mean, you have an enormous collection. Something charmed you about him. How did you get into him?
Well, I got into him, I mean, through the TV series and the books, and I just sort of loved his comic vision, and I mean that perspective, and I really just was a big
It's funny.
fan.
I just started to, because he is English. When I realized, first I read the alcohol, then he goes into a pub, and you can sense the English and Irish are very pub life oriented. So that's where I became a bit interested in his relationships with these people. You know, I've never read him before. And I'm a reader, but I never hit him for some reason. I don't know what.
You should mention that they put together a complete shada with some parts being not comic book,
Animated.
animated, yes. So
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
the
There is.
episode does exist in that patchy manner.
Yeah, no, which is really a great thing to get that. And actually, it's interesting because like a lot of the story of the first book of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, a lot of that kind of storyline is sort of Douglas Adams reusing the plot that he had written for Shada that hadn't gotten out there at that point. But yeah, it was.
I finally found that spot that I was looking for, that note that note referred to. You know, it's at times like this, when I'm trapped in a Vogon airlock with a man from Beetlejuice and about to die of asphyxiation in deep space, that I really wish I'd listened to what my mother told me when I was young. Why, what did she tell you? I don't know. I didn't listen.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great
Yeah, I played that one on my brother.
hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's really, I mean, I am a big, in addition to really loving Shakespeare, and also, I mean, I've realized one of the things why I enjoy doing Instant Shakespeare year after year and is reading. It's really great to read fun texts, and Shakespeare wrote fun texts to be performed as Douglas Adams did. And that's, I think, part of why I'm so excited by him. I mean, because you can look, as I say, I haven't seen the new series, but if you look at the original series and if you look at the movie, you see very different sorts of, well, I mean, they're different actors doing it, and it works really well with both of them. I mean, because the text is really good and really funny, and that's why I'm such a big fan of Douglas Adams. And so, and science fiction, you know, it's really great. And there's I mean, they also have this, which is now the Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide, which has the 5 books and also an additional story that he wrote about Zaphod.
What's
Young
that?
Zaphod plays it safe. Yeah.
Read that.
Let me see, how long is that? It's I don't know. I think that's a little too long to read. It's about 10 pages.
Oh, fun.
I
mean,
gotta go. I got forms to fill out. I'm going
yeah,
to.
and we've been going for like an hour and 15
Yeah,
minutes
yeah,
now.
right.
So
Okay.
I think this is a good thing. Just hey, just remember, know where your towel is.
Okay, great. I'm going to read a little of him when I get a chance, since I now have it on my iPhone, so I'll get into it. Okay.
All righty. So yeah, so thank you all. Let's celebrate
Now
celebrate Douglas Adams. Read Douglas Adams.
I want to hear this story.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that I really believe is really important to the Instant Shakespeare Company and to our readings is that we are doing things, well, Shakespeare and other things that are in the public domain, and other things when we're doing stuff by writers, I mean, like, well, with my father's plays or other writers who are members of the company, like Kitty's plays or Andrew's plays, that we are, or like the Liz Estrada, that we have the author's permission. And I mean, for a celebration like this, I think it is, fair use to say we celebrate Douglas Adams and hear bunches of chunks of things for that. But I kind of also, not only that it would be a long thing to read, but also I do think that is, I mean, by doing a complete story that isn't included in anything else, I'm not sure that really qualifies under fair use. And as someone who really believes that we need to keep respecting the rights of authors, both. Yes, well, but his estate is still around, and I mean we should respect the rights. I mean, I think it's really interesting that the whole sort of idea of copyright is something that's really intrinsic to this country. I mean, because it was like even spelled out in the very beginning in the Constitution, they even talk about it, so that's something, and it's expanded a great deal. It was 14 years, then 28, 56, and now all of that. But yeah, so I do that. So I think this is good. I think I've covered a lot of the stuff of Douglas Adams's work. But I think, as I say, his impact is huge, and it is, it will, and I think it's one of the legacies that will continue to grow and really inspire a lot of people, because it's about of like an individual navigating and getting through, but you really got to know where your towel is. So. Would you like to make any other final remarks before I end the live stream?
Oh, I saw the email you sent me about an hour afterwards, and I sent you back something that I don't think I can do anything in November. I hope I can, but for now we'll see.
Okay, yeah, I'll deal with that later, Ken. But yeah.
Okay.
So was there anything you wanted to share about Douglas Adams? Are you at all familiar with him, Ken?
No, I'm not, but I'm going to look him up now.
Okay, good, because that's what we like to do. We like to promote reading and finding out about new things. I'm sorry.